an active agent, so
Hmm?
as an active agent, I've got some friends who just came back from vacation, and one of them did not post until she got back, and she was posting real estate content while she was away, because I think what she felt was she didn't want to send a message that I'm not here and open and doing business, because she still had her team, in place. So I think she deliberately didn't want to send that message.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, we're going to come back to that, because I think there is something to be thinking about. Like that almost comes into that consistency of content and presence and stuff. So with that, I'm going to acknowledge we've got a whole bunch of people in the audience. We are very excited to start today's session here. It's a couple minutes after the hour. My name is Brian Tormey, and I am very excited to be here with a fabulous panel of specialists who are going to give a lot of great content on selling and setting yourself up for success. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Richard, first to sort of help do some introductions and walk us through things, and then we'll dive right on in.
Brian, thank you so much. It's great to be here with everybody today, and good afternoon for all of you who've joined us, and welcome to Be Your Best, our webinar series to share best practices for getting real estate deals done in New York. I'm Richard Haggerty, CEO of One Key MLS, the comprehensive multiple listing service for the New York region. One Key has more than 46,000 subscribers and serves the region from Montauk through Long Island to Manhattan and Monticello. One Key hosts the Be Your Best series with the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors, which represents more than 14,000 real estate professionals in Manhattan, the Bronx, Westchester, Putnam, Rockland, and Orange counties. Today, we're setting our sights on social media to share best practices for enticing new business. Whether you're socially savvy or new to the scene, our expert panel will guide you through TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, and other tech tools to engage your prospects. I also want to thank Brian Tormey, president of TitleVest. Brian, we could not be doing this webinar without you. You've just been a terrific partner for going on 3 years now.
Yeah.
And we so appreciate you moderating all these panel discussions. They've been so valuable from my perspective to all of our listeners out there and our viewers. TitleVest is a leading New York City-based title insurance agency and member of the First American family. TitleVest offers a full range of services for real estate property purchase and refinance transactions. TitleVest has offices in Manhattan and Westchester and engages in transactions upstate, downstate, and nationwide. TitleVest has won the New York Law Journal's Best Title Agency for the last 10 years. Now let's meet our panel. We are very pleased to have with us Antonia Del Rosario, a licensed associate real estate broker with Brown Harris Stevens. Also joining us is Anna Glencar, a licensed real estate associate broker with Compass. And Anna, congratulations on getting that new associate broker license.
Thank you.
And we have Bruce Siegel, president of Marketing Sense for Business. Bruce is a marketing consultant who specializes in LinkedIn. Anna, Bruce, Antonia, thank you so much for being here. And Brian, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you yet again, Anna, Antonio, and Bruce. Excited to have you here and launch into everything today. We've got an action-packed agenda. We had a lot of fun going through and sort of planning out our agenda for today. So I'm excited for everyone to be here and hear your wisdom. I mean, there's a lot I learned on just our prep session, and I know there's more that's going to come up in today's session that we're going to dive into. Before we do, Richard, we got to hear the stats. The market, there's really some interesting things, right? We've had our interest rate changes. We've talked about what we're expecting. We've had some great panelists here talking about sort of interest rate moves and mortgage application affordability index, inventory on market. But what I'm hearing is like there's some things moving again in the market from a volume perspective. At least that's what I'm hearing in sort of the rough verbal sense in the gossip chain. I'm curious, you've got your fingers on the pulse on all the numbers, all your One Key data. Tell it like it is, buddy.
So, it's interesting, Brian, we had a panel last month that really took a deep dive into the numbers. And I think we're going to be sounding like a broken record for 2023. I think that this is definitely a reset period, a recalibration period. And we've talked about the fact that we're never going to see that exuberant market that we saw really in the last 2 years. Having said that, we definitely are seeing pockets of activity, But I think we're also seeing a lot of buyers staying on the sidelines, kind of waiting to see what does happen with inflation. We were a little bit optimistic last month, based upon a couple of things that have happened in this past week with interest rates starting to climb back up. I think that may throw a bit of a curveball for the spring market. But overall, if you're comparing year over year, and I've talked about the fact that in a lot of ways that's an unfair comparison, we are down about 30%, depending upon whether you're looking Hudson Valley or Long Island. We also still have flat prices. Prices are not going down. So even though we're seeing a pretty significant drop in sales, we are not seeing any type of a significant price correction yet. And we are seeing, in terms of pending sales, those are trending up, at least in terms of we're seeing more pending sales down about 15%, whereas closed transactions are down in the mid 30s. So that could be a hopeful sign. But I think a lot of folks are going to kind of wait and see if the Fed gets inflation under control. And I think if that happens, sooner than later, we're going to see a really strong rebound. But I don't know if we're going to see a strong rebound until consumers are confident that inflation's under control and the Feds are going to establish a more consistent policy about any future rate hikes.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be some interesting news. Like I'm curious to see how things really do come out in some of the next Fed meetings to see if that does stabilize, right? The last meeting, the last webinar meeting, not the Fed meeting, the prediction was fairly like, hey, here's how we think it's going to go. But then there's been some other moves in the news that maybe point to something else happening. So,
well, Donna Allshan's, that Monday report that Donna comes out with for the luxury market, that's shown some pretty, healthy transactions for the last several weeks.
And that's what I'm hearing from people. Like, there's a lot of, it feels like beginning, like there's movement and contract activity, including at the high end of things and at good price point. And we're going to get to our social media side, but I'm curious, I'm seeing some nodding with Antonio and Anna. I'm curious, just, right, we're asking for the anecdotal here. Richard shared the numbers, but I'm curious, are you feeling that spring warmth anecdotally in the market?
Absolutely. In fact, I ran from a showing right before this, and I'm running to a showing right after this. And
okay. And that's a good thing.
I'm having exclusive right to sell being signed. It's tripled in the past couple of weeks, and buyers are out. So I agree with Richard with everything he said. It is still down in terms of volume, right? Mm-hmm. So if the properties in terms of prices have gone down 10% or gone up 10%, we still get our commission. But it's when volume goes down, right, that's what, we brokers,
it hurts.
It does, right? So what I tell my brokers, right? That's right, title, right? So what I tell my team is that the 900 transactions that are being done in the past 30 days, and then it increases a bit because spring market is here. You just need to capture that. So if you're not in your client's radar, right, somebody else is going to capture your client, because you throw a dime in a room and land on 20 brokers, right? So, it is all about being on the radar, giving your value add to them, and relationships. So that's how we capture the market. And if you're skiing right now, I love to ski. You're not going to capture the market, right?
Yeah. Anna, similar, same vibes of like you're seeing some movement?
Yeah, definitely picking up. I was saying yesterday or this week is kind of the eating dinner, standing up on the phone season has begun. But everything's very complicated right now because there's still, I think, a lot of buyers who are waiting to see what comes on in April. Mm-hmm. I think that there are a lot of sellers who are worried they can't get the price they maybe want and are thinking about renting again. So I think that we are having to do more work for the same
those deals.
Deal. But that's, that's our job. That's what this market is.
Okay. Well, with that, let's dive in, because I think we've got a really great gathering here between you three to chat through the sort of setting the stage for success, right? The social marketing and social media best practices. We've had some of you, Anna and Antonio, you've been on a panel a year ago touching on this. And Bruce, we're excited to have you join us this year as we dive into this, bringing some, some expertise on different platforms to the table. So I think, first I may turn to and let's talk about some of the different platforms in place. Oh, I see Anna. I got to give a shout out. Bandit.
I'd like to hear that perspective
to
from
make
the
a cameo.
Yeah, he found his light. He's here.
For those of you who don't follow Anna on Instagram, you may not have noticed that Anna was showed a photo of her cat Bandit and said Bandit may join us for the webinar. So please join to find out. It turns out Bandit did. Okay, with that, let's turn it. So let's talk about some of the different platforms. Bruce, I'm going to turn to you first, and I want you to share some of your perspectives on LinkedIn, a platform you specialize in, especially and sort of the demographics it speaks to and sort of some of the tool sets it can be used for and how you think about it as it relates to the transactional real estate world.
Well, thank you, Brian. I think that LinkedIn may be a little bit different, people in this audience, because it's not where you're going to find your consumers, your potential buyers acting as buyers. LinkedIn is really a place where professionals network with each other. And when you think about the real estate community, in addition to commercial real estate brokers, residential real estate brokers also have many professional contacts that can be useful to them, people like yourself, mortgage brokers, bankers, and so forth. So LinkedIn is where you want to put out your professional presence and your brand, primarily to network with other professionals as a potential referral source. And then secondarily, you are, of course, going to find some buyers there. The other thing that I think, another two things that are really important about LinkedIn is that if you look at the world of B2B networking online, LinkedIn is really the place to go. So there have been some upstarts. Their Facebook example did a strong play in the business market a few years. They've had some missteps. And if you look at the history of LinkedIn in the last 10 years, it was acquired by Microsoft, as most people know. Microsoft pretty much left it alone, and LinkedIn has made no major missteps. And so that leaves LinkedIn, if you want to network with other business people, whether you're a commercial real estate broker or a consumer broker, residential broker that needs to make these other contacts, LinkedIn is the place to be.
Yeah.
Advantage for a broker, many brokers come to real estate with a background in other professions. And so LinkedIn is a great way that the potential buyers and partners can then look at your profile and see, oh, you worked in commercial banking, or you were a brand product manager for 10 years before you took a break. And that's a way to differentiate yourself, and an interesting thing that you bring to the party.
Well, and I think, and we may turn to this later in the conversation, there's this growing trend in conversation that each agent really is their own business. And as teams become a more common dynamic, they're operating businesses with, numerous employees, and that LinkedIn is a place where your business should be. And so there's an interesting interplay there where you're right.
The interplay between, we'll talk more about that later, but as we did in the pre-call, the interplay between, your personal life, your personal brand, and your company is really huge on LinkedIn. And that's been a huge trend since the pandemic.
Antonio, I'm going to come to you next. And you shared some good thoughts around sort of Instagram being a mix of it's both B2B, there's a little bit of that, but especially B2C. And any words of advice and sort of comments on who you're going to find on Instagram, right? What is the purpose and how does it act as a tool for you as a brand and a resource? Who's the audience you're going for on Instagram?
Well, I've made, I don't know, I think to quantify it is harder with any of the social media, but I can confidently say I've made over $400,000. Mm-hmm. I would say in the past 5 years, right? So that's substantial. And I do that by going, whenever we close a deal, we go source, and then what were the associated connections with the consumer when it comes to the source. So when I put Instagram or social media, because sometimes I have to say this to my fellow brokers, you must be present in all of them. And yes, TikTok. I'm 54 years old.
We're gonna get there.
But Instagram is great because it's a little older in terms of how long it's been, and it also attracts a different demographic. But it does touch on all the demographics. So I know my 14 and 17-year-old are also in Instagram. They don't post, but they communicate through that. And then they do see some of the paid promotions that brokers and other vendors have on Instagram. But when someone looks me up, right, if they type in Google, let's say over 90% of all my businesses are referred, right? If there is a happy buyer, seller, investor, renter, landlord, they go, you got to work with Antonio. He's been in the business 20 years and he has an amazing team. And they look me up, they Google me, Instagram shows up, right? And LinkedIn, and then the rest of all the other things in the internet that's, since I got on the internet. And what Instagram does though, because of the stories, sometimes people start to, when they're having a downtime and they're decompressing, they look at the stories. And so what I do is I post at least 1 or 2 stories from my content and also things that interest me, right? I'm a nature lover, so you'll see things about birds and things and fishing and wildlife. Also, I'm Filipino American, so I talk about how proud I am and some of the misconceptions about Asian Americans or Filipino American. And my consumers, my audience loves that, right? And then when they start to like or comment, mind you, many of the ones I've closed with have never liked or comment, but they see it in the feed. Because if you start watching things, then the algorithm will keep feeding you the same thing. And so I get at a closing table, and I'll end with this. At a closing table, I would say, oh, look at what we did yesterday, and look at what we went camping. I'm a scoutmaster for a lot of girls and boys here in New York. And then they go, oh, I know, I follow you on Instagram. Oh, and they said, and your children is this and that, and you just ate here and there. And I go, wow, this person never commented. But they know me through those social media, particularly Instagram. It is just important that you create that brand. Now, the minute I follow somebody, they come into my world, right? They're referred to me. Before I even meet them, I follow them. And they see me following them on all of their platforms. And once I follow them, and then they talk to me or I meet them, then they follow me, right? And that's it. And that's my living resume, my living marketing. And they want to know you as if you are their best friend. They don't need you as a friend, but they want to know you like a friend because they want to trust you. They may like you, but if they like you and they don't trust you, they'll never do business with you. So that's what I think social media is about. It's part of your brand.
Yeah, it does. Anna, we're gonna come to you next and talk about TikTok. I'm gonna share one of the comments that came into our question feed from Dennis Goodhart, who shared, we find that Facebook is a much better lead source for residential real estate than LinkedIn. LinkedIn may be better for commercial. But Bruce, I think that lines up with some of what you said, which is LinkedIn isn't about a lead source, really. It's about
I absolutely agree with that. But also, it really just depends on your practice and your business. You may be reliant on your other professional contacts, referrals and leads. And then there are people maybe that, like Antonio, that are more direct to consumer, and you're getting, you said, most of your leads through search. And so there may not be as much need for you to have a regular presence on LinkedIn. So it's really residential, commercial, but also specific to the agent.
Yeah. Okay, Anna, let's talk about the newest kid on the block who isn't the new kid anymore. Let's talk about TikTok. Tell us a little bit about your perspective on it as a platform, and especially some of the demographic trends you see happening within it and like whom you're connecting with on that platform.
I agree with everyone else that I think it's all part of the greater ecosystem. Like I'm not good at LinkedIn. I don't spend much time on it, but I'm on LinkedIn. Like you have to have that professional presence. I'm on Instagram, but Instagram is more, as Antonio said, it's the people who follow you. TikTok is more like YouTube in that, like I have 17,000 followers, but my videos go to hundreds of thousands of people, or sometimes they don't. But it's a very different, like it has a different kind of reach. And I would say that it is much more consumer facing, although I have made like online friends who are in the industry. I've met certain vendors, I've met people at other brokerages. So I think there is a bit of a mix. I was actually looking up what my follower demographic is, and 23% are 18 to 24, 54% are 25 to 34, which makes sense, millennials. That's what I am. 17% 35 to 44, and then 6% are over 45, 2% of those are over 55. Like I've had conversations in comment sections with people who are retired. And there is, so I think there's a belief that it's only really young people, but I think a lot of the older people are not necessarily making their own content, although there are very famous grandmothers with 7 million followers. But there's a lot of people who are on TikTok, they're looking at it, and they might not follow you, but they'll see videos.
Yeah. I want to go back to and call out and ask you to sort of expand a little bit on one of the points you made at the very top of your commentary, which was about how TikTok, if I'm a user on TikTok and I'm open my phone, I pull up TikTok, what it's feeding me is influenced by who I follow, but what it's feeding me is influenced a lot by like what's trending, which means, as you sort of were saying, like you may have a video, you said this in like a quick way, but like you have 17,000 followers, but your videos are seen by hundreds of thousands of people, or sometimes not. And you said it in like a fun, joking way, but it's about the content there, and like, so I would expand a little bit on that for our audience.
Do you want me to go into trends now, or do you want to? Okay.
Let's just do trends now, and then we're going to come back to Facebook and some other things. But yeah, let's do trends now.
Because I actually want to adjust my answer from earlier, which is that I almost want people to avoid trends. Like I think that there's a belief that hopping on a trend or using a trending sound will get you in front of a lot of people, which it might, but then there's also in our business an extended belief that that will get you business, and it won't, in my opinion. I think that you're seeing more and more companies like Cheetos can hop on a trending sound and do a trend because they have a whole marketing team dedicated to doing this. They can throw money behind it, and people already know what Cheetos is, and they're willing to spend $3 because they saw a funny video. Someone is not going to sell their home with you because they saw you do like a trend on TikTok. If you already have some name recognition, if you already have sort of a page of content that you've created that really demonstrates like your value and who you are as an agent, then I think it's definitely beneficial if there's a trend that comes along. Like I had a mushroom grow out of my kitchen wall because I lived in a slumlord building. And that was at the exact same time that the things in my New York City apartment that just makes sense trend was happening.
Right.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
But that also didn't lead me to any business. That I have 2 videos that have almost 1 million views. There's that one, and then there's another one which was I stitched, which means like there's another video and then you sort of respond to it. But I stitched a Street Easy video that was like, this is what $1 million can get you in New York. And I stitched it and I was like, well, it was 1.3 and it went into contract in 14 days and it's a co-op with 25% down. So it's literally a minute of me explaining like post-closing liquidity and doing math to explain like how you, like what you would need to make to buy it. I got like 5,000 followers off of that. And like, that was how I found my niche. So that to me translates much better. Like finding your niche is much more effective than using a trending sound. I think I've only had 2 like videos that were trends ever. And even trending sounds, like they'll tell you, oh, put a trending sound behind your video. But I was going back and looking at it, and those don't do as well for me. They actually do worse, because I think part of it is like, I'm very New York specific. I do have a niche, like people outside of New York, if they want to follow me, it's not because they saw a trending sound.
Right. And for a minute, for some of our audience, just add a little bit of explanatory around like, so that was great. And I've got several follow-up questions, but I add a little explanatory around just trending sounds, like what is trending, following or using a trending sound mean? Like explain that a little bit more.
So as you kind of explained, like with TikTok, when you open the app, it just shows a video and then you scroll and what it shows you is based on a combination of what is performing well. It's basically trying to figure out what you will watch, like what is keeping your attention. So there will be a trend that's usually a combination of like a sound, like a song, and then some sort of, it's like it's almost like a meme, but it's video, right? It's like sound plus tagline or like a cut to a different thing, and people will utilize that, and it's trending, which means that the TikTok gods or whatever we want to call them are pushing that content out. So by like getting into something like that while it's trending, you can be seen by potentially millions and millions of people
who don't know, who've never followed you, right?
Absolutely. But you can also get in front of tons and tons of people by making something that's just performing well overall. And by performing well, I mean, people are watching or not just immediately scrolling. People are commenting, people are saving it, and people are sharing it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a trend to do very well, but often like trending videos or viral videos that get millions and millions of views, those are things that can be very one-off, which is why they're very good if you need to bring people to your platform that already exists, but they're not good for creating an audience that is going to be purchasing with you.
Yeah. And so with that, now coming back to some of the other stuff you said, I wanted to sort of ask, like, you commented on Cheetos is now doing this, right? So, and we're jumping a little bit to some of the content we're going to talk later, but there's effort that goes into making a good video, right? And share a little bit about that. And with that, you had some interesting comments on like the time it takes to carve out of your day as an agent to go create that content for it to be at the quality level that's going to get paid attention to. You had some interesting comments on just sort of thinking about content creation relative to you being a practicing business practitioner, right? Who has clients who have needs and showings and conversations and contract negotiations.
Yeah, yes, the first and foremost, it doesn't matter how many followers you have on social media if you're not good at your job and you're not putting energy into actually doing the business. I know that can be, I am talking a little bit to myself. Sometimes, you get distracted because you're like, I want to put this out, and you need to first go and send the emails that you needed to send. But I think that as far as creating the content, there's a reason that I say you should focus more on the platform that you like engaging with. Because if you like, say you like watching TikTok and there's a type of video that appeals to you, for me, it's like green screen talking in front of like a green screen. So I'm showing an article, I'm showing a listing, I'm showing something, and I'm talking about it. That to me is pretty easy to make. I might have to do a couple takes, but I made something yesterday and it took me probably 20 minutes from start to finish. But then it took a lot longer to sort of like moderate the comment section and respond to people and block people and do all of that. So there's other elements that go into it as well. But I think that it is, to be successful, in my opinion, I think it's a combination of figuring out like what your value add is and what the way that you want to present yourself as an agent. And then also figuring out within the platform that you're using, how do you want to demonstrate that? Because there are other agents who do like, maybe your value add is, a ton of stuff about renovations, but your content style is like mine. Or you might have similar content to mine in like value proposition, but you do it while walking on the street, or you do it inside of listings. So there's a lot to kind of, which is fun if you're interested in engaging with the platform. You can schedule some time. Like I'm trying to schedule in the mornings, like after the gym, before work
Production time.
Yeah, basically give myself an hour to like work on something and just make myself post consistently, because that way doesn't matter if it flops, doesn't matter if it does super well, it's about the consistency, and you get better and you can A/B test what works for you.
Okay, very interesting. I'm going to jump to a question that, we'll come back and talk about some of the other nuances on platforms as we go. But I want to go, last year when we did this panel, there was a lot of conversation about the newest, coolest platform. At the time, Clubhouse was not brand new, but was new enough that it was still all a buzz and all the Twitter. And I'm curious, and Antonio, I may come to you, like, what's your experience? You're on several different platforms, and you are, I can tell, in tune with the new platforms coming out. What are you seeing? Like, is there another new platform that's all a buzz in a Twitter that we should be hearing about and knowing about? Or are sort of these main platforms we've talked about? We haven't talked about Facebook yet, but we'll sort of put that in the known, well-established platforms.
They're trying to replace Twitter because of all of what happened, all the hullabaloo with Elon Musk. This is my advice to all of the brokers. You have to keep up with what's going on, right? If there's a new platform, people didn't want to get on TikTok, and then my company, Brown Harris Stevens, is now all over TikTok, right? So it's because they see that is the future. I'm on it. I'm not. I watch Anna Klenkart, by the way. If you don't follow her, I mean, that new video that she's talking about, I loved it, and I even show it to my clients. It's fantastic. But if you are not keeping up with what's new, then you're not doing your job, right? So this is how I define our job as brokers. We market properties. We market ourselves to get properties to market, right? We market ourselves to get buyers. It should be so easy. If I Google Anna Klein-Klein and never Googled her before, I should be able to get to know her within 10 minutes, 5 minutes even, right? From all of the platforms. It'll come up. Google yourself.
Oh, yeah.
So it is, so yeah, to answer your questions, there are new things coming up. But there's a question here from Jose Flores. How do you incorporate social media? We're all very busy. But if I say to you, Jose, and this is for everyone, and the same thing with my team, if I say to you, I will give you my $2 million exclusive, I will work with you as a buyer if you are on social media, if you market my property on social media, then you have to put in a half an hour, an hour every day. It's just part of our job. That's just what it's become, right? So if you're not doing that, then you're not doing your job. How would you get paid for something, for a job that you're not doing, right? That's how I reconcile all of that. That's why I have to make time away from my business, away from my family, away from all the other things. But what's great about it is this is your good news. You can incorporate your life. In fact, I highly recommend, that's why I know Anna Klenkar's cat, right? Because she's authentic. I mean, it's a buzzword. Everyone's talking about authenticity now. But all it's saying is this. Authenticity is, who are you? And who are you speaking from your heart? So yesterday, with all of this, look, I grew up Catholic. I am, Jesuit all the way, but I live in New York. So I enjoy all the Jewish streets, right? I enjoy the holidays. I go home before sundown on Friday. I don't touch my electronics on a Saturday, right? All day, that's my Sabbath. So it was Purim. So Hamantash is like, when I was showing a property, we talked about, the best ones. And I was 2 blocks away from Orwasher. So I'm getting it. And I put it on Instagram Live. Then I posted it everywhere. On TikTok, I posted it everywhere. And people started DMing me, texting me, and it's just, and at the same time, Brian, I spoke about market update while I'm eating.
Wove it in there while you're in.
That's right, like that, like you couldn't understand what I'm saying, but it's authentic that I'm spitting out crumbs of Hamantash and my favorite's raspberry. So people go, oh, he's so real. Like when I look at Anna right now, look, there's a cat behind her. It's real, and it is now the post-pandemic expectation that I need to get to know Anna with her sofa and the color of her sofa, right? the painting behind me and the books that I read and my kids read. So yes, to answer your question, keep up with what's going on. And it is part of our job. If you're going to get paid an average $15,000 commission for properties you're selling, or a $4,000 commission for things that
This
you're
is part of
renting,
what it's about.
part of what you get paid for.
I want to go to, so this being authentic and incorporating your life in it. We've got a question from our audience. Ellen Rothschild has asked, she's interested in our panel's opinion on using social automation platforms such as Zoho Social or Buffer. And I'm curious if any of you have thoughts on sort of like either these platforms or other methodologies for sort of scheduling and helping create content or schedule the content out, and how you balance that with your life, and balance that personal life piece with, as Antonio, you just said, this is part of the job.
Well, I just think there's a real risk because everyone's talking about authenticity, and that's really important on LinkedIn. And a huge trend has been to integrate your personal life with your business life on LinkedIn. And that's hard for people because they look at LinkedIn, I'm here to be a professional, and that's really not true. Mm-hmm. But you're talking about an automation system doing your posts, then on LinkedIn, then you're going to lose a lot of that authenticity. So I am personally a huge fan of directly writing your post, mm-hmm. Making sure that it's you that's actually out there. That's why people like me, that were one of the first million users of LinkedIn, are on there and continue to be on there 15 years later, is people who want real interactions with people that we can then start the seed of a relationship, that we actually go and meet in person, not to get some automated, feed. Having said that, if you've decided, I know there's some questions about prioritization, and if you've decided that LinkedIn is not your platform of choice, then you could go to an automated system or delegate out the posts and, once a week, once a month, just keep a minimal presence on LinkedIn.
Well, and part of, so there's like a couple parts. So one, other content creation that it's not you creating, but also that I'm going to, Antonio, I'm going to use you because I know some of your life, right? So you've got troop meetings to take care of. You've got, obligations and events with your kids and family in your church. You've got a busy business and a team and meetings and showings and all these things to schedule. And Anna, you spoke a little bit about you're using your mornings for content creation, and so I guess one of the questions is, are there tools you're using, either like these tools or others, to help you have, Anna, we were talking as sort of like before the thing got started, and Richard, you brought up an example of being away on vacation and still posting while you're away on vacation, right? And whether that's posting is you teed up all those posts before you left, so that, and Richard, maybe yours is the example from before, your friend who was away on vacation and had a real estate related post happening every day she was away, I think is what you said. These are the kind of platforms that can help automate that and sort of tee that up so that so that you can have a little bit of that balance where you can unplug from the social media jack for the week you're in Aruba or wherever you are, but the world doesn't know you are. And so I'm curious, so Antonio and Anna, is that a tool you are using, tools, either these two or others like that, to sort of balance that when it's being posted, scheduling piece across multiple platforms? Sorry.
I'm not familiar with the two that were mentioned in the chat, but I think that there's a difference between a company that is creating content and posting for you and one that is helping you schedule. Like some people, I'm much more of a I want to talk about this now, so I'm going to talk about this now. And maybe I save it as a draft and post it at a time when more people are on the app, or maybe I just post it right away. There are other people who will go and they will make all of their video, they'll just change their shirt and they'll shoot all of their videos for the week in one day. But as far as finding time to do it, I think of it as the same way that if you're someone who cold calls, if you go after FSBOs, if you're doing, if you're a ninja person and you're doing your Ninja 9 and you're doing real estate reviews, I view it as part of that. And again, find the platform that you enjoy doing it for, so it feels like less of a chore, and find content that you enjoy making. And then, yeah, some people use schedulers. I would generally advise against depends on the situation. but I can tell pretty quickly if it's just a bunch of people's assistants talking in a chat, or if someone I know like DMs me on Instagram, but it's like clearly a social media company they hired, because that's not the way that they speak, and they're acting like they've never talked to me before. And that can be incredibly off-putting,
Right.
because it's the same way we were talking about not making eye contact on Zoom.
Mhm.
It's like, it's a, oh, I thought we had a relationship, and now all of a sudden this person's like acting like they've never spoken to me before.
Right. Someone else has slid into your DM that isn't who you
Yeah,
thought just slid into your
very
DM.
weird.
Right. Yeah.
I should just
Yeah.
say that on LinkedIn, just very quickly, they have within the last couple of months added a feature where you can schedule your posts from within LinkedIn, so that you have your authenticity, author it, and then if you're on vacation or away for a couple of days, you can still schedule it for next year. Then you have the challenge: are you going to be around to engage? To Anna's point.
Yeah. So Anna, you're sort of saying in large part, you're creating and posting in sort of lifestyle because it's fresh and visceral, like that's your voice. Antonio, I'm curious for you.
Well, you know, what I'm hearing from Anna, what I'm hearing from Bruce is you just have to be real. And if you're hiring, you know, to when it's posting or automation, if you're hiring automation, or paying for automation, I should say, robots, it loses it, right? And people will know immediately that it's not you, and then you lose credibility. You don't want that. Now, do I have I do with email, right? So when they have a newsletter that goes out, sometimes I do it at 2 a.m. I would not send a newsletter out at 2 a.m, but then I time it like at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning or whatever your consumer is. And you have to figure out, you know, trial and error, which one you get the most opens, right? That's different. And I would not give up on email. Email works.
Yeah.
But in terms of live, I do live Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn is very important to have, because they also go, oh, we went to Cornell together. Oh, we went to NYU together. Oh, we know these people together, right? And Facebook the same. There's these unique propositions that each platforms have, but when I'm live, I have to be careful so that, you know, I have a lot of followers, and you don't want, especially for women, you don't want anyone stalking you. You just have to be careful. So, and I have a family. I have 2 teenagers. So when I'm posting that we're eating, you know, you got to try this new restaurant, and people love that, right? And they want to know. I do it like a day later, right? At a time that people might be looking for a restaurant to eat at in my neighborhood, right? Or Lower East Side, where we were just at. And it is important that you are. I like it like this. I like putting it like this. Pretend that you're on a late night talk show, right? And you're talking about your life, talking about all the controversies and joking around. And you know, 90% of the time, that's what you're doing with the host. Then 10% you talk about your movie. So that's what I do. I go, here's who I am, as a person. You're hiring a person, and the lifestyle behind that. And this is what I do in between showings. I'm eating in Hermitage. I'm actually going to a museum because I'm in the neighborhood.
Right.
That way I can go, hey, I just sold in Lower East Side a condo for $2 million, and you got to see the tenement museum, right? It is phenomenal, because it shows me that I care about the history of New York. I also care about the neighborhood and what it has to offer.
Right.
And it's all about value add. It's all about lifestyle, because this is their home, right? Even if you're selling commercial, this is where they're going to have their business. So you want your consumers want to know if you are connected to that neighborhood and authentic about it.
Yeah. I want to go, you just mentioned something about sort of testing the different times that work. And Anna, you mentioned sort of A and B testing a second ago. I want to turn to and ask the question, like, how do you track success? And Bruce, I'm sure for you and your clients, like, this is a thing you're responsible for helping track success. So Anna, I'm going to start with you. Like, how are you paying attention to and tracking your success, and what's working and what's not working that influences what you're doing next?
First, I want to make one edit to what I said earlier about trends. If you are advertising a listing and you are able to find a way to get that listing to trend and get that in front of a ton of people, I think that that innately has value no matter what.
Okay. Good ad.
But wait, sorry, ask me that
Oh,
question.
yeah. How are you tracking success? Like, how are you measuring and tracking your success?
So I used to track like all kinds of KPIs. There's tons and tons of data that you can look at. I think the biggest things now, really the only things I look at are, it will tell you for every platform, if you join as a creator, which I recommend over a business, because if you sign yourself up as a business, they're going to want you to throw money behind your content. If you sign up as a creator, it's a little bit different. But they'll show you tons of data. The things that I look at are which videos are getting me a lot of followers, because that is a long-term person who's now in your ecosystem and your sphere, who's like invested in you in some way. And then as far as A/B testing, it's like views are secondary, because views are a reaction to basically when in the video, it will tell you when people tune out and when they scroll. So if you're, I have a friend who works in marketing, and she's like, why don't you, if you have a video that doesn't go very far and you want to talk about that topic, make 3 to 5 different videos about the same topic with different hooks, with different beginnings, with different structures, and see what's resonating. It'll make you better at your job. Or your job of social media. It'll also make you better maybe at understanding the content that you're putting out, because you have to think about it in multiple ways. But yeah, I think like retention on a video, which then leads to higher engagement overall, and number of followers that I get off of a video, because that's building your sphere.
Well, and part of what I've heard in the space is the algorithms are starting to weigh, and this is almost where TikTok has grown, is they're starting to weigh that level. They're measuring engagement in different ways. And, like there's these funny things like, you can start a video and set your phone down and the video plays through to the end, but they're aware, they're starting to take into nuances that your gyroscope, when I hold my phone, it moves slightly. And so it knows that the video literally just got set down and got watched, but maybe not watched intently. And I didn't sort of touch the screen and sort of engage with the screen. And it's these little crazy nuances that are starting to influence the amount of engagement that's being measured. And that engagement is influencing how far they're, right? That's my limited, what I've been reading about is things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
going.
there's a lot of talk around trying to like game the algorithm, but I'm going to go with, so for those who don't know, Mr. Beast is the YouTuber with the most followers in the world. I think it's up to like 150 million at this point. He's 24. He's going to be a billionaire. He's very smart, actually. I know someone who works for him, but he did an interview with Lex Friedman on his podcast about how he's like, just make the best content. He's like, that's what it is. At the end of the day, everyone wants to find like the trend, but just make better content and people will engage with it. And I have to be honest with myself. There were times that I was upset and I was like, well, this video should have done better. And I posted it at the wrong time, or I didn't use the right hashtags. No, it just actually didn't resonate with people. It wasn't as good a video as I thought it was.
Yeah. And, Bruce, I'm going to turn to you. What do you think in terms of like, how are you thinking about tracking and measuring success, in these different platforms?
Well, I think for all of us, there's a little bit of a, kind of a false excitement and a high when you get like 30,000 views or impressions on a client of mine got that on a post. But I really try to force myself to really look at more substantive engagement, which is really on LinkedIn around the comments. So it's really how many people are really commenting on your posts, and are they substantive comments beyond just sounds great? And then those people who are really engaging, are you able to take those, sort of the very beginning of a relationship and then start to nurture something that you could even take, offline, as I say, and, into the quote real world through a phone call or meeting,
the IRL,
or something like that. And then the other thing, but to one of the other points is that how subtle these algorithms are. Even as something as in LinkedIn, there's places where you have to click on more or see more. And so even just the act on clicking more will, if you can get someone to do that the way you sort of design your post, that will really help. And the other thing I want to just say before the end of the hour, when Anna was talking about creators on TikTok, there's something called creator mode on LinkedIn, which is new within the last year. And it's not many people are on it, but as a real estate agent, I think it would really be very beneficial to you because it allows you to put your posts ahead of your written summary. So it gives your profile more of a visual aspect, and will also, and many people don't know this, it will allow you to have your website hyperlinked near the front of your profile. So that becomes more prominent. So that's something I'd, definitely recommend. And it's so we think that the LinkedIn algorithm is then favoring the creators more.
It's interesting. On our last one of these panels, we talked a lot about some of the different content styles and sort of, like Instagram picking up doing reels, and like some of the different platforms mimicking each other as they see
Right.
what different customers are liking as a feature set within the platform itself. Well, we've only got a couple minutes left.
They're competing for the audience so that they can monetize that, right?
Yeah.
So each platform, that's their job. And like Bruce and Anna were talking about, it's really about what is your content and who are you, right? If you don't know who you are, how can you create content, right? I know I'm a dad. I know that I love helping people. I'm authentically, and I feel great. In LinkedIn, there's these testimonials that people write, right? The minute they go click on their profile, you will see, if you click on my profile on LinkedIn, there are some sellers who are saying, and buyers who are saying, you'll be crazy not to hire Antonia. I mean, this is it is, and it's heartfelt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to know from your consumers, from your buyers, sellers, friends, you tell them, like, when you think of me, what do you think of? What are the adjectives? So you got to stay on brand, and you have to have the narrative that people keep. Like, I know Anna Klenkar's brand. I mean, it is about giving the numbers and educating me. Like, I know everything she's talking about already, but I love hearing it from her perspective.
Yeah.
So even as a broker, listening to Bruce right now, I'm going to follow him everywhere because I'm learning something. It's a value add to me, but they're very clear what their brand is. There's a South Park episode that's all about brand. It's really funny. You got to watch it. But but if you know your brand, you got to stick to that brand.
Yeah.
Now, I don't post things like, I'm hungover, I'm throwing up. That's not part of my brand, right? It's
Right,
just
not on brand. It might be the truth. It might be authentic. Not on brand. Well, Antonia, I want to turn to one last question for you all. It's a few minutes left. And first, I'm just going to give a shout out for Nicole Beauchamp, who said and gave a shout out to I think this is on LinkedIn, Bruce, creator mode is great.
Yeah.
Who was shouting out that. So the question I want to wrap out with is, you're going to go be on sort of, our audience here might be on one or multiple platforms, but do you have words of advice for them on which platform becomes their like home stake, like their home place where they're really putting the most energy into their brand building? Or there's a chance your advice is no, be peanut butter and spread yourself over all of them equally, right? So I'm curious, Bruce, I'm going to turn to you first. Thoughts and advice on like which platform to put the most energy into for most of our audience here, transactional residential real estate agents.
So I would say that definitely not the peanut butter approach. I'm a focus guy, and so you do really need to focus. I would say probably most of the people on this call are not going to focus on LinkedIn. Now, if you are a commercial real estate broker, if you get your business through other professionals, then you might focus on LinkedIn. Have a presence, and so it really depends on the demographic, the audience. So I would say it's kind of like a 60-40. So have your primary platform presence, but don't ignore the others.
Yeah.
Like we didn't touch on is Facebook, and in the pre-call we all agreed that Facebook is really good for an older demographic, but also the group dynamic can be really good. So you can't really ignore that.
connecting to your high school group or other social groups or cause groups or Boy Scout. I mean, I'm on
Yeah,
the main
White
reason I'm
Plains
on
Moms, you know,
Facebook
those are really.
is Boy Scouts, right? As Antonio and I share. Anna, to you next. How do you pick your platform that your meat and potatoes is gonna go into?
So I only started doing TikTok a little over a year ago. I started, like, I used to write about other stuff. So then I started writing about real estate and had like a blog and a newsletter. And I still do that and get a lot of business from that. And then I sort of I had an Instagram. So I started adding real estate into my Instagram. And TikTok was the first place that I explored, basically going in as an agent. But I think, as I've said earlier, it's like where you enjoy. And I think the vast majority of agents, Instagram is going to be the one that makes the most sense for them to spend the most time on, as far as something that's going to have pictures and video, and you can write a little bit of a caption. And if anyone wants to get into TikTok, please send me any individual questions. Like, I'm happy to walk you through it or talk to you. But I think that as Bruce touched on as well, too many people try to be too many things. And yeah, don't be peanut butter. Like, put yourself, like, make sure that you're on, as Antonio said, make sure when they Google you, they see you everywhere, and make sure it's consistent, but put your energy into the one that you enjoy the most.
Yeah, that resonates. Okay. Antonio, close us out, sir. How do you
Oh,
choose where
right
you
there,
put your
right?
energy?
Sure, right there when she says what you enjoy the most, that's coming from your heart. There's a great book that that just came out called Lead from the Heart, and this is like an amazing guy who built a billion-dollar company, and it might be counteractive, right? Counterintuitive, I mean. You want numbers, you lead from your brain. It's about housing and real estate and commercial. It's all about the brain. It's not true. The vagus nerve, he talks about the vagus nerves. It feeds our, the heart and the brain is fed from the vagus nerve. So they're very, very interconnected. So what do I lead with? I ought to say, because of my demographic, because I'm 2-3 bedroom guy, I used to be studio guy when I was younger, before I had children, right? Before I was married, studio guy, 1 bedroom. And now my Facebook and Instagram people, right, they're in their 50s, 40s, 50s. They're the ones who's going to buy a $3 million property. So you have to be all over that. But I do not ignore the others. Sometimes what I do, Brian, is well, not sometimes, a lot of times, I would create content on TikTok, and then I save that video and I post it on LinkedIn, I post it on Facebook, I post it on Instagram. So it saves me the time. And then people go, I'm watching this on Instagram, but it has the TikTok brand, right?
Yeah.
So people go, he's 54, but is he hip? I mean, he's, and then I start talking to my kids about, like, look, at my Riz is really high, right? And they go, Papa, how do you know that word? I said, I watch, I watch YouTube. I watch all the TikTok stuff, and there are other things that's not appropriate to bring up. It's not part of my brand right now, but it embarrasses them sometimes. But it is very important to increase your Riz by, it comes from the word charisma, right? How are you attracting people? And you attract people by being who you are and showing them your journey. I love Anna and now Bruce and Richard because I got to know their journey. Right? I am part of that journey as they navigate through this world, and we're all part of this community, and you're part of that community. Like, one of the things I really want to do with you, Anna, is create content together, right? In person. Like, I don't know how that would look like, but when I share things that I tagged you guys on Instagram and also on LinkedIn and I think on Facebook, but when somebody tags me, it's like an endorsement. Very, very important. So, there's the sun is for everyone. So I never go, oh, Anna's going to take my client, so I'm going to take Anna's client away.
There's
that
more than enough to go around.
That's right. So that's my answer.
Okay, well, this has been phenomenal. We are at time. I want to say a huge shout out and thanks to Anna, Bruce, Antonio. Thank you so much for being here. Wonderful content, lots of great advice and wisdom here. Richard and Kathleen and everyone at the whole HDR team, Gary and Jeff and everyone, thank you for continuing to keep this program going. I think it's a wonderful one. And I'm excited for what we've got going on in the rest of the year. Tune in with us next month for another great webinar on some other exciting stuff. So we'll see you all soon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
everybody. Great job.
Great job.